essay questions, right? So let's get started. I think you can see my screen now, right? Okay, so, right. In fact, we have not done this paper, so we can go in the order, right? So the first question here says, which combination of events must increase the level of scarcity in the economy? Which combination of events must increase the level of scarcity in an economy? Discovery of new oil reserves and higher saving ratios, improved application of technology and new invention, less certain weather patterns and a fashion for greater consumption, more efficient power generation, and a reduced birth rate, right? So, right. So what do you think is the answer, students? So what will increase the level of scarcity? I also think it's C, right? Because think about this. So when you are, when they are less certain weather pattern, so that can affect your agricultural output. So if the weather is less uncertain, then the agricultural output can be affected. And secondly, if people are consuming more, there's greater consumption that will also result in scarcity. Is this simple, right, students? Are we good on this? May, June 1511. May, June 1511. Okay, right. So we can look at the answers afterwards. Okay, now what about this question? Some people are shipwrecked on a tropical island, and they allocate their time between gathering coconuts and fishes. Each individual is equally productive in allocating coconuts, in collecting coconuts or catching fish. Which diagram represents the production possibility curve of this community, right? So some people are stuck on the island and they are equally productive in collecting coconuts and catching fish. And the correct answer should be A. Exactly. Excellent. It should be A, because I did tell you that when the production possibility curve is a straight downward sloping line, it means that the opportunity cost is constant. And secondly, it also means that the resources can easily be transferred between the two things. So if people are equally productive, right, between catching fish and collecting coconuts, then it should be a straight downward sloping line, right? When they are equally productive. Right, we're good on this. So let's quickly check. One should be C and two should be A. One should be C, one should be C, one is C and two is A. Right, great. Okay, now the next question says, which characteristic of money is most essential if it is to serve effectively as a store of value? Which characteristic of money is most essential if it is to serve effectively as a store of value? Right. Right. Store of value. It should be divisible. It should be liquid. It should be portable. Store of value. Yeah. What is store of value? That the money retains its value over time. So what should be the answer? Zohan? Right. So for something, Zohan is saying B, liquidity. Okay. Okay, I think the correct answer is D. Let's check quickly. The correct answer is D, right? Why? Think about this. Scarcity means that that thing is in limited supply. Zohan, when something is scarce, that means that that is in limited supply, and therefore that is why it has the value, right? So just think about it. If you start using something that is available in abundance, right? So that will not be scarce, and therefore that will not be very valuable, right? Things that are very valuable, like diamonds or, I don't know, gold, copper, things like that, right? Not copper perhaps, but these are scarce, right? They are in limited supply. That's why they are valuable, right? Liquidity, on the other hand, what does the term liquidity means? Can anyone of you tell me? What does liquidity means? Liquidity means that something can be easily converted into cash. So liquidity, cash is the most liquid asset out there, right? How easily or conveniently can something be converted into cash? That is liquidity, right? How easily can something be converted into cash, right? We good on this? Easy? Right, exactly. Zohan, does it make sense? Is it simple? Okay, next question. So the next question says, Great. Okay. The worker can make 10 hats or 5 pairs of shoes in a day. In the market, 3 hats can be sold at the same price as 2 pairs of shoes. The worker should make what? Interesting, right? A worker can make 5 hats. So 5 hats is the same, can make 5 hats or 5 shoes, right? Sorry, 10 hats, my bad. So 10 hats or 5 pair of shoes. So it's 10 each hats or 5 shoes, right? 3 hats can be sold. 3 hats can be sold. 3 hats can be sold at the same price as 2 pair of shoes. 2 shoes and 3 hats. What the worker should make what? Interesting. Now, do you know how to solve this question? Give it a thought and then I'll tell you how to solve this. Give it some thought. Yeah. Any idea? What's the best way you can solve this? Right? What's the best way you can solve this? So 3 hats are sold at the same price as 2 pair of shoes. The worker should make what? What should the worker make? Right? So let me give you a hint. So the best way is to assume a value, right? So this is true. We know 3 hats is the same as 2 shoes, right? If we assume $2 to be the price of $2 to be the price of each hat and $3 to be the price of $3 to be the price of each pair of shoe, then it will give you the same values. Yes or no? Because 3 twos are 6 and no, my bad. 2 twos are 4. No, yeah, that's correct. 3 twos are 6 and 2 threes are 6, right? Students, does it make sense or not? Right? So then all you have to do is to just multiply. So if you're producing hats only, the 10 threes are 10 twos are 10 twos are 20, right? If you make shoes only, then each shoe is worth $3. So 5 threes are 15. If you make 4 hats, 4 hats would be 4 twos are 8 and 3 threes are 9. 8 and 9 is how much? 8 and 9 is 17. And then 6 hats. 6 twos are 12 and uh, 12 and 4. Yeah, should be a. Should be a. Khizr, sorry, Zan, did you get this right? So what we did was, because the question said that 3 hats is the same as 2 pair of shoes. So what we were supposed to do is to just assume the value. So if I assume the value, like the price of each hat to be, let's say, $2, right? So 3 twos are 6, right? And if I assume the price of each pair of shoes to be $3, right? Then this equation will balance. Then this equation will balance because 3 twos are 6 and 2 threes are 6, right? Now, then all we were supposed to do is to just plug in these values and see which of these will give you the most revenue. So if you produce hats only, each hat is worth $2. So 20 times 2 is 10 times 2 is $20. So option A is giving you most revenue compared to option A is giving you most revenue compared to any other option. So the correct answer should be A. Is this clear, Zen? Okay. In the diagram DD1, great. So in the diagram, what's the question saying? In the diagram D1 shows the individual initial demand curve for public transport. What could cause the demand curve to shift to D21, right? So what would cause the demand to shift to D to D1? Price of public transport, quantity of public transport. The cost of running the individual car fell. Right. So, right, what would cause the demand curve to shift to D2, D1? Right. The cost of running the individual's car fall. Okay. The individual is no longer able to drive the public. The price of public transport falls, the public transport services are reduced. The public transport services are reduced, right? So why should it be B? It should be B because students, think about this. The C will not cause a shift. It will just cause movement along the curve, right? It will just cause movement along the curve, right? When the price of the good changes, it causes movement along the curve. Why is A incorrect? The cost of running individual cars fall, right? So if individual car is now becoming cheaper, why would you want to use public transport? So if private cars are becoming cheaper, why would you want to use public transport, right? So then in that case, the demand curve would not have shifted outwards. Then in that case, the demand curve wouldn't have shifted outwards, which it is in this case, right? And why is D incorrect? Can anyone of you quickly tell me why is D incorrect? The public transport services are reduced. Why? If that happens, what would that affect? Would that affect the demand? Would that affect the supply? What? As price increases, public transport supply will increase as well. Exactly. Right? So it should be the supply because public transport services are reduced. This means that it has something to do, this statement means that it has something to do with the supply, not the demand. The public transport services are reduced. So when services are being reduced, it should affect the supply, not the demand, right? Next question. Okay. The table shows the price last year's demand for 4 goods and services. If the price of each item increases by 1%, for which items would the total expenditure increase? Interesting. If the price of each item increased by 1%, for which items would the total expenditure increase? Okay, interesting. Yeah. So do you remember we talked about this, that in the case of elasticity, more elastic and less elastic, what happens to the revenue when price changes? What happens to the revenue when price changes? We talked about that, right? Now the question is saying if the price of each item is increased by 1%, for which of the items would total expenditure increase? Right. So Zohan is saying B. Okay. Think again, Zohan. Right. Okay, think about this. Let me give you an idea. So, right, that's correct. That's correct. Then, yeah, A is the correct answer. Now, students, first thing, so Zohan, you was thinking correctly, but you know, have a look at this. So, I did tell you that in the case of more elastic, when price increase, what happens to your revenue? Your revenue decreases, right? Why would your revenue decrease? Because demand is more responsive. So when price increase, right, your revenue would fall, right? People will give up on the quantity. So when price of more elastic, when the price is increasing and it's more elastic, right? When the price is increasing and it's more elastic, right? Your total revenue would decrease. On the other hand, for less elastic, when your price is increasing and the nature of the good is less elastic, which means it's a necessity, you have to buy that thing no matter what, right? You have to buy that thing no matter what, your total revenue will increase, right? And in the case of unitary elastic, it doesn't make any difference. So whether your price is increasing or your price is decreasing, right? In the case of unitary elastic, your total revenue or your total expenditure, right? So don't get confused with the term revenue or expenditure, right? Zohan, why? Because it's the revenue from producer side and it's the expenditure from consumer side. So technically it means the same thing. So technically it means the same thing, right? So in the case of unitary elastic, your total revenue stays the same. Got it? Easy? Okay. Now the thing is, right, that even in the case of inelastic, even in the case of perfectly inelastic demand, right? What's the shape of the perfectly inelastic demand curve? The shape of perfectly inelastic demand curve looks like this, which has a PED of 0. So perfectly inelastic demand curve looks like this, where you have price on the y-axis, you have price of the good on the y-axis, you have quantity demanded on the x-axis, right? And no matter what the price increases, your total quantity stays same. No matter what the change in price is, your total quantity is staying the same, right? So think about this, friends. So the idea is that in the case of less elastic and perfectly inelastic, in the case of less elastic, how do we know football tickets is less elastic? Because the overall value, ignoring the negative sign, is less than 1. So ignoring the negative sign is less than 1, this means less elastic. And similarly, light bulbs, which has a PED of 0, that means that these are perfectly inelastic. So I did tell you that in the case of perfectly inelastic and in the case of less elastic, your total revenue should increase. So let's see what the answer for C. C is A. Yeah, correct. Yeah, A. Light bulbs and football tickets and light bulbs. Yeah, is this correct, students? We good? Can we move on? Zohan, did you get this? Okay, let's do this question. So Khadija, we are doing all types of questions. Okay, so when the value is 0, what will be the elasticity? Right, that's perfectly inelastic. Sorry, I just read that. That's perfectly inelastic, the one that I made. Right? Okay, in the diagram, area OP1, M1, and Q1 is equal to the area O, P2, M2, Q2. Right? What is the value of the price elasticity of demand? Is the value if the price is halved from P1 to P2? What is the value of the price elasticity of demand if the price is halved from P1 to P2? Think about it. So Zain is saying B. Okay. Khadija and Zohan, what do you guys think? Should be the answer. So what is the value of price elasticity of demand if the price is halved from P1 to P2? Right. It can't be, okay. What does area below demand curve represent? So who can tell me? What does area below demand curve shows? What does the area below demand curve shows? No one? Okay, think about this, students. It should be intuitive. The area below demand curve shows you the revenue, right? How so? Let me show you, right? So the area below demand curve shows you the revenue, right? How so? On the y-axis, you have price per unit. Y-axis of demand curve has price per unit, right? And the x-axis has the quantity, right? So you have price, right? So think about this, right? So if you have a demand curve, let's make it a curve, right? Now, if I choose point A, right? Now this point A will show you, right? How much is the price per unit times the quantity. So if I multiply the price per unit with the quantity, what will that give you? So it's basically what? The area of the rectangle is length into breadth, right? So that would give you the area of this rectangle, right? So it is basically what? Price into quantity is what? The revenue. Similarly, this was one point that I chose. Then if I choose another point, right? Let's say B, right? Again, it will show me area below demand curve will show me the revenue. Students, are you getting me or not? Because what is price per unit? If you're selling a good for $5 and you're selling 5 units of it, so 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 5 is 25, right? Students, so price times quantity is your total revenue. Right? So if the area is staying constant, if the area is staying constant as the question says, which means that the total revenue is staying constant. If the area below demand curve is staying constant when the price changes, this means that the total revenue is staying constant, which means what? In which case your total revenue is constant? Students, in which case is your total revenue constant? When the price elasticity of demand is unitary. I did tell you, just in the previous question I told you, right? In the case of unitary elastic, whether you increase your price or you reduce your price, right? Whether you increase your price or you reduce your price, in the case of unitary elastic, your total revenue is constant. It doesn't change. So area below the demand curve shows you revenue, and the revenue is not changing when price is changing. This means it's unitary elastic. Right. Total expenditure will remain the same. Zuhan, Khadija, Zen, is everyone clear on this? Right? So it should be C. And do remember that the unitary elastic has a value of 1. It only comes with the negative sign because obviously we do know that price elasticity of demand always comes with the negative sign. Yes or no? Is everyone clear? Can you move to the next question? How the revenue will be the same. So on the revenue is the same because whatever percentage decrease in the price is same as the percentage increase in quantity. Right? So, okay, so you're saying just by looking at it, you're saying, so we are not assuming it. It's already given in the question. It says that the area of this O, P1, M1, and Q1 is equal to the area O, P2, M2, and Q2. We're not assuming it, right? We're not assuming it. They have said that the two are equal. So in this thing, right, they have already told us that, sorry, right? They have already told us that this area, right, this area is the same as is this area, right? So this means that the total revenue and the two options staying the same, even though the prices are changing, then it means what? That it's unitary elastic, right? Got it? Okay, so next question. 4 firms supply the market. The market supply is 50 units at $20 and 100 units at $40. The table shows the market share of each of the firm at the two prices. Which firm does not have a normal upward sloping supply curve? Which firm does not have a normal upward sloping supply curve? Market share at $20, market share at $40. Interesting. Okay. So A, which firm does not have a normal upward sloping supply curve? The market supply is 50 units and 100 units. Two prices. Which firm does not have a normal upward sloping supply curve? Okay. I mean, A is making sense to me because, no matter what the price changes, the market share is the same. But I mean, why can't the answer then be C? Or why can't the answer then be D? Why can't the answer be B or Y, sorry, C or D? Interesting. Which firm does not have a normal upward sloping supply curve? Yeah. Right, but it's more of market share, Zohan. It's more of market share. It doesn't say the market supply. I was also thinking if it's market supply, like the quantity produced, then you would have been absolutely right. Which firm does not have a normal upward sloping market share? Do you guys know what market share is? Market share is the percentage of the total market sales that is captured by one business. So if I say that mega lecture market share is 10%, this means that out of 100 customers who take online classes, 10 of those customers study at mega lecture, right? Similarly, if I say that the market share of Toyota cars is 10%, then I mean that out of 100 cars that are sold in the market, 10 cars are of Toyota. That's what market share means, right? I mean, let's check. I mean, to be honest, this is a little confusing for me, but I also think, what question number is this? 8. 8 is D. Whoa. 8 is D. Yeah. I mean, this is a little weird. When the market share D. That's weird. We'll come back to it. I mean, it doesn't make much sense to me. Okay, the price of a good doubles, but firms are able to increase production by only 10%. The price of a good doubles, but the firms are able to increase production by only 10%. What is an example? What this is an example of? So if prices double, right? So what is this? Right. Yeah, sure. Right. Have you taken the screenshot? Okay. Now, right. Okay. Now, the next question says, student, the price of a good doubles, but the firms are able to increase production by only 10%. This is an example of, what is this an example of? This should be simple. So when price doubles, what happens? Right? So price doubles. So whenever anything doubles, this means that there is an increase of 100%. Because think about this, right? Whenever price doubles, right? So if I assume that the new price is 20, previous price was 10, right? 10 into 100. So you do this, you'll get 100% increase. Yes or no? 10 divided by 10 would give you 1. 1 multiplied by 100 would give you 100%, right? So whenever something doubles, right, this means that there's 100% increase. And what is the formula for price elasticity of supply? How much is the percentage change in supply? It's only 10%. How much is the percentage change in price? How much is the percentage change in price? 100. So that will give you a value of 0 0.1, 0 0.01 in fact. 0. No, not 0 0.1, right? So 0 0.1, since this is less than 1, it will give you an overall value. It's less than 1, so less than 1 is inelastic. Less than 1 is inelastic, right? Okay, next. In a market, there is a surplus of good. Which change would cause the market to come into an equilibrium? There is a surplus of good. What is surplus? You should know. There is a surplus in the market. Surplus is when supply is greater than demand. What will cause the market to come to an equilibrium? Right? Right. We do know that. When supply is greater than demand, what happens? When supply is greater than demand, prices decrease and it will come back to the equilibrium. Yes or no? Simple, right? So if I make downward sloping demand, upward sloping supply, right? Where will the equilibrium be? Where will be the surplus? Surplus is if I choose any price level above the equilibrium price. So if I choose a price level above the equilibrium price level, so you can see it's intersecting supply at this point, it's intersecting with demand at this point, right? So supply is greater than demand. That's basically what? That's a surplus. When there's a surplus, what happens to the price? Your price decreases to come back to the equilibrium level. Got it? Easy, simple. Okay. The market for sugar is in equilibrium. A disease affects the sugar crop and newspapers report harmful health effects of consuming sugar. Which combination of changes in demand supply matches these events? The market for sugar is in equilibrium. A disease affects the sugar crop and newspaper report harmful health effects of consuming sugar. Right. Students, what do you think? How will these two changes affect the demand supply for sugar? Right? Students, right? So when there are news that it's harmful for your health, obviously people will decrease their demand, right? They will stop consuming or they will reduce their consumption of sugar. And why is supply reducing? Supply is reducing because there has been a disease. So the crop has been affected. So what question was that? That was 11. So 11 should be A, right? Easy. 11 should be A. Got it? Okay. Now the next question says the diagram shows the demand curve for journeys on a toll road. If there's a reduction in toll from $5 to $3, what is the resulting increase in the daily consumer surplus? Interesting. What is the resulting increase in the daily consumer surplus if the price falls from $5 to $3? $5 to $3. Yeah. How did you do it, Zwan? How did you do it? $5K minus $3K. Okay, okay. Let's wait for the other students. So you're saying the answer is B? I think it's incorrect. Right. So think about this. Students, when the price drops, what happens to consumer surplus? Right? So consumer surplus is the area below, in fact, let me make it right. So area below demand curve and above price, right? So area below demand curve and above price is your consumer surplus. Got it? Okay. Now, if I have to make this demand curve, right? Now have a look at this. So originally the price was, let's say, this was your original price, right? And then your price dropped. So the new price level is somewhere here, right? Okay. Now think about this. This is 5. This is 3. This was 1,000. No, this was 2,000, 1,000. This was 1,000. This was 1,000 and this is 2,000. So this is 1,000 and this is 1,000 and this is 2,000. Okay. Now, what was the consumer surplus before? Like at the price level of 5, it was area below demand curve and above price. So this is your price. Below demand curve would be this triangle. Easy. We go on this. Then the new consumer surplus would be area below demand curve. So this is the new price level. So it would be below demand curve and above price, right? So it will be this bigger triangle, right? It will be this bigger triangle that I'm shading in front of you. Now, what it shows basically that this trapezium is the additional increase, right? This trapezium is the additional increase in your consumer surplus. And that is what the question was asking, that what is the resulting increase? Now, what's the area of the trapezium? To calculate the area of the trapezium, the formula is half into height. How much is the height? How much is the height? 5 minus 3. 2. Half into height into sum of parallel sides. What are the two parallel sides? These are the two parallel sides. These are the two parallel sides. So one side is of 1000. The other side is of 2000, right? Students, did you get the formula? So what's the formula to calculate the area of trapezium? Half into height into sum of parallel sides, right? Now think about this. Half into height. What is the height? 5 minus 3 is 2. So 2 is the height into sum of parallel sides. So one parallel side was this much, which was 1000. The other parallel side is this much, which is 2000. So then these two get cancelled out, and that gives you an answer of 3000. Right? So that's giving you an answer of 3000. So it should be C. Right? Got it? So let's check if this is C. 12 is C. No worries. Right? Is everyone clear? Zain? Khatija? Okay. What is an economic reason why hospitals are often built and funded by the government? What's the economic reason why hospitals are often built and funded by the government? Hospitals are public good. Hospitals are very expensive to build and run. Hospitals cannot use price to allocate demand. Hospital treatments may benefit many apart from those who use them. Use price. Yeah. Right. Right. So we do know that hospitals, what we were in fact talking about yesterday, external benefit. External benefit is the benefit that happens to the third party, right? External benefit is the benefit that happens to third party. And the ideal example of that in the recent time that I can give you is of COVID. So if people who got themselves COVID vaccinated, right, they also benefited other people because those people did not catch that, right? Other people did not catch that disease, or they had less chance of catching the disease, right? Okay, so, right. So this would be more time consuming, right? But this is a very interesting question, right? Do you guys want to continue the class for some few more minutes? Yes, no? Because this class is about to end, right? So, okay. So this class, I'm ending the link. Quickly join the link. Join the class with another link, with the same link, and then we'll continue. Join the class with the same